Welcome to the channel, my friend. Today you'll find out how your life would have turned out if you had been born Joe Biden. Enjoy the video. You're not born into a palace of power. You were born in Scranton, Pennsylvania in 1942, into a Catholic family with more worry than money and more pride than comfort. No silver spoon, no dynasty waiting for you, no old men in dark suits leaning over your crib whispering that one day you will rule Washington. Just a crowded house, hard times, and the smell of working-class America in the walls. The kind of life where the bills arrive like threats and the future feels like something owned by other people. Your father is not a titan of industry. He's a man trying to keep the family afloat while the economy squeezes the breath out of men like him. Your mother carries faith and stubbornness like weapons. They give you something stronger than wealth and weaker than certainty. They give you grit. In America, grit is a beautiful word until you realize it usually means surviving things that should never have happened to you. As a boy, you do not look like a future president. You look like a kid trying to outrun embarrassment. You stutter. Not a charming little hesitation, not a cinematic pause, a real stutter. The kind that traps words in your throat and turns every classroom into a battlefield. Kids can smell weakness the way sharks smell blood. Every sentence becomes a test. Every time your name is called, your chest tightens. You know what it means to fear your own voice. You fight it the old way. No miracle cure, no inspirational montage. You stand in front of the mirror and force the words out. You recite poetry. You memorize lines. You train your tongue like it is a disobedient muscle. Again and again, night after night. While other boys are free to speak, you are at war with syllables. You learn early that dignity is not something handed to you. It is something you drag out of yourself with bleeding hands. Your family moves to Delaware. Another uprooting, another reminder that life is always happening to you. Before you are old enough to choose, you go to school, you lean on faith, on family, on ambition. You study history, politics, power. Not because Washington looks glamorous from where you stand, but because power decides which families eat easy and which families lie awake counting debts. You start to understand that government is not abstract. It is rent money. It is medicine. It is war. It is the letter that arrives saying your son will not be coming home. You go to the University of Delaware, then law school. You are not the golden prodigy of legend. You're not a man floating on genius and destiny. You're hungry, social, imperfect, determined. The machine of American ambition is already grinding all around you. The rich have cleaner paths. The connected have easier doors. You learn to do what politicians have done since politics began. You shake hands until your arm aches. You remember names. You project confidence even when uncertainty is chewing through your stomach. You marry young. Nelia. Beautiful, bright, full of life. For a while the story looks almost normal. The kind of normal that fools people into thinking fate has finally stopped sharpening knives for you. You build a family. You enter local politics. County council. Small steps. Side doors into the cathedral of American power. The old men in the room look at you and see energy, hair, teeth, ambition. You learn quickly that politics is half ideals, half performance, and all endurance. Then comes 1972. You're only 29 years old, too young by the instincts of the system, and you run for the United States Senate against an established Republican. Most people think you are finished before you begin. Too young, too unknown, too little money, too much nerve. But sometimes democracy lets a young man kick the hinges off a locked door. You campaign like a man possessed. Street corners, union halls, living rooms, endless hands, endless smiles, endless promises to people who have heard promises all their lives and still go home to the same cracked sidewalks. Against expectation, you win. The victory should be the beginning of a clean myth, young senator. Rising star, American dream with polished shoes. Instead, fate comes with a tire iron. Weeks after the election, your wife and infant daughter are killed in a car crash. Your two sons are badly injured. The call comes, and your world does not shatter elegantly. It is not poetic. It is not noble. It is obscene. One day you are a senator-elect. The next, you are a widower staring into a pit so deep politics looks like a bad joke. This is the real machinery of tragedy. It does not care about your title. It does not care that newspapers were just printing your name like you mattered. You think about quitting. Of course you do. Any sane man would. Washington can wait. Your sons cannot. The oath of office is administered at the hospital, not under chandeliers, not with triumphant music, in a room that smells of pain and antiseptic, where the future of your family is uncertain and the future of your career feels grotesque beside it. This is how your national life truly begins, not with glory, with grief. You become a commuter senator, riding the train from Delaware to Washington and back again, because your boys need a father more than the Capitol needs another speech. For years, the train is your artery. Steel schedules exhaustion. The rhythm of a man split between public duty and private wreckage. Washington respects power, but it feeds on absence. To survive there while trying to remain human is like carrying water in your hands. You keep going. That's the strange thing about your life. Again and again, history hits you with a hammer. And again, you stand back up, older, wearier, more scarred. Some people call that resilience. Others call it compulsion. In America, the line between heroic perseverance and pathological inability to stop is often invisible. You build a Senate career, decades pass, foreign relations, judiciary, hearings, votes, wars, treaties, crime bills, ideology. You are in the room for the late Cold War machinery, for domestic fights that leave scars on the country, for arguments about race, punishment, power, and the shape of American law. Politics hardens you. It has to. Washington is not a temple. It is a knife fight conducted in expensive fabric. Men smile and destroy each other in the same afternoon. You run for president in 1988. Of course you do. Ambition is the one disease no politician ever recovers from, but the campaign catches fire in the worst way. Questions about borrowed language and speeches, old mistakes dragged under floodlights, a media feeding frenzy. The modern American humiliation ritual begins. Cameras, headlines, ridicule, collapse. One minute you are a contender, the next you are a cautionary tale. That is the cruelty in national politics. It can turn a man into a punchline before the week is over. Then your body rebels. In 1988, 2 brain aneurysms, not metaphorical pressure, real surgery, real mortality. Death leaning over your hospital bed again, close enough to smell. Recovery is brutal, pain, vulnerability. The terrible knowledge that a public life can vanish not only through scandal or defeat, but through a blood vessel no wider than a straw. You survive, again. Years continue to stack. The country changes. The parties mutate into harsher, louder versions of themselves. Television politics becomes cable politics, then outrage politics, then internet politics. Everything gets faster and uglier. Nuance dies in daylight. Everyone is always performing for someone. You're still there, a veteran senator with a familiar face and a long memory, too old-fashioned for some, too talkative for others, too centrist for purists, too liberal for conservatives. In a divided country, being disliked by many is often proof you have been in the arena too long. In 2007, you run for president again. Another try. Another reminder that history does not owe you a crown just because you have suffered. The campaign never truly catches. Barack Obama rises like a new chapter America wants to read. You see the current shifting. This time, instead of crashing against it, you adapt. He chooses you as running mate in 2008. Vice President. It is a strange office. Proximity to ultimate power without ownership of it. You are close enough to history to feel its heat, but still one heartbeat away from irrelevance. Yet the Obama years restore your national standing. You become a loyal lieutenant, a foreign policy hand, a familiar emissary to working-class voters who might not trust the soaring rhetoric, but understand the language of lunch pail struggle. The administration faces economic crisis, wars, legislative trench warfare, racial backlash, the grind and sabotage of Washington. You are part of the machine trying to hold the center together while the country frays. Then 2015, your son Bo dies of brain cancer. Nothing in politics prepares you for burying a child. Nothing. You have known grief before, but grief does not get easier with practice. It gets heavier because it drags all the previous dead behind it. Bo is not only your son, he is to many eyes the future of the family, the cleaner heir, the one people imagine carrying the name forward with less baggage and less age. When he dies, something in you caves inward. People ask if you will run for president in 2016. You cannot or will not. The distinction hardly matters. Donald Trump storms into the vacuum. The country enters a different phase of itself, louder, crueler, more feverish. American politics stops pretending to be normal and begins eating through the walls in public. You watch, then 2020 arrives, and the whole nation seems sick in body and spirit. Pandemic, fear. Death counts on screens, streets in protest, conspiracies everywhere, institutions cracking under stress. Trump dominates the air like a storm system that never leaves. You run again, this time not as the dazzling future, but as the tired promise of stability. Not revolution, not poetry, recovery. A man elected less as a fantasy than as an emergency exit. You are old, very old by the standards of the office. The camera sees every crease, every pause, every stiff movement. Enemies. Thanks so much for watching. Let me know in the comments who you'd like to hear a story about next time.